I'm not a lawyer, but this woman is the mother of a boy who shot up his school in Michigan, and today she was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter for the shooting. Listen, this is the first time a parent has been prosecuted and found guilty in a mass school shooting committed by their child. So it's unprecedented. So stick around for all three parts because you have to hear all of the details so you can tell me your thoughts. Let's start with the facts. This is Ethan Crumbley, and on November 30th, 2021, he was 15 years old at the time. He went into his high school in Michigan and opened fire, ultimately unaliving 4 students and injuring many others, including a teacher. He pled guilty to 24 charges and was ultimately sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now fast forward to this trial, which was for his mother, Jennifer Crumbley, who was charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 1 count for each victim. And she was charged because while prosecutors agree that Jennifer did not pull the trigger or even want her son to pull the trigger, they say her actions, or failure to act, was so grossly negligent that it actually contributed to the cause of death for the victims. Here are a couple clips of the prosecutor explaining manslaughter and some of the terms that go along with it. Now stick with me because I need to make sure we're all clear and all on the same page before I get into the details of this case.
You're going to learn that involuntary manslaughter is committed when someone's acts or their failures to act or their failures to perform their legal duty were grossly negligent, and that gross negligence was a cause of death. A cause of death, not the cause of death. And that's very important because, as you've heard, and you'll hear it again and again in this trial, that in a case such as this, when somebody else was a cause of death, the person who was grossly negligent can and still will be held responsible. That is, if the person who pulled the trigger, if the shooter in this case, his act was reasonably foreseeable to the defendant. So what's gross negligence? You will learn that it is a willful disregard of danger. Gross negligence is when you could use ordinary care, just ordinary care, to avoid a known danger, and you don't, even though it is apparent that serious injury could occur.
Okay, so basically the prosecution is saying that Jennifer Crumbley's failure to provide a basic level of care and attention to her son created an unnecessary risk to other people. And not only that, but they say she failed to provide that basic level of care and attention, even though she had enough information about her son, what he was going through, and what he had access to, that she could reasonably foresee or predict that he was going to end up causing serious injury to other people. Okay, so that is what they claim, and that is what they have to prove to the jury. And so they do so by dissecting Jennifer's parenting, her personal life, and uncovering all of the circumstances that led up to the shooting on November 30th. They start with receipts and video evidence that the Crumbley family, which includes James Crumbley, who is Jennifer's husband and Ethan's dad, and he has a trial coming up in March, that there was a history of guns in their home, including one that was purchased back in April 2021, and then the 9mm that was ultimately used in the shooting, and that one was purchased in November. But Jennifer's attorney says that Jennifer wasn't even there when those guns were purchased.
This is a receipt from a Kel-Tec gun that was purchased, correct?
Yes.
And again, on this receipt, it indicates that James Robert Crumbley purchased the gun.
Yes.
And Jennifer Crumbley's name does not appear anywhere on that receipt.
No.
This is the receipt from the Sig Sauer that was purchased in November of 2021, correct?
Yes.
You have a direct memory of the purchase on this Sig Sauer gun, correct?
Yes.
And on this receipt, this gun was purchased by James Crumbley, correct?
Yes.
The receipt does not have Jennifer Crumbley's name.
No.
And when this gun was purchased, James Crumbley was accompanied by a teenage boy and no one else, correct?
Correct.
The prosecution comes back and says, even though Jennifer wasn't there, she was well aware that the weapons had been purchased. And there's evidence of both parents, Jennifer and James, going to the shooting range with Ethan, where he would practice using all of the weapons in the house, including a visit to the shooting range with Jennifer only days before the shooting.
So the range provided multiple receipts from showing that James and Ethan and Jennifer Crumbley had been at the range in the past, as well as surveillance video documenting range visits on September 25th and on November 27th. I believe that's 3 days prior to the shooting.
Okay.
This is the video that James had sent to Jennifer via Facebook.
Okay, Ethan and James both got handguns this week, testing them out at the range. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
The prosecution also gets into if the weapons in the home were properly secured, especially considering that Ethan was a minor. So they bring up a time that Ethan, who's referenced in the video as the shooter, sent a video to his friend of him messing with a gun. Just watch.
In the video, the shooter loads a loaded firearm magazine into the firearm and then chambers around into the firearm.
So, is this a concern to you?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury why?
As that ATF safety pamphlet states, the access to firearm by juveniles.
Your Honor, I would object because access to firearms by juveniles may be against the ATF pamphlet, but there's no evidence that there's not an adult there or anything happening.
Okay, yeah, he's not commenting on that. You don't know if anybody else was present.
No, Your Honor, I don't.
And Your Honor, I understand that's argument, and she can use my daughter. Was there any message accompanying this video to his friend?
Yes.
What was the message?
My dad left it out, so I thought, why not? LOL.
And that is,
Okay, come back for part 2 so I can tell you why Jennifer having an affair was brought up in this trial.